Picture this. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, Spanish conquistadors, their bodies ravaged by disease and starvation, push forward. Their armor rusts in the oppressive humidity. Their clothes are in tatters. Yet they are driven by a single, all-consuming thought: gold. They are searching for a city paved with it, a kingdom of unimaginable wealth. This wasn't just a quest. It was a madness, a fever that had gripped the minds of Europe's most ambitious and ruthless men. They abandoned families, fortunes, and reason itself to chase a whisper, a glint of hope in the dark jungle. Hundreds of expeditions marched into the green abyss, full of bravado and dreams of glory. Very few ever came out. They were swallowed whole, not by monsters, but by their own obsession with a place called El Dorado. So where did this legendary city of gold actually come from? The story begins not with a city, but with a man and a ritual. High in the Andes Mountains of modern-day Colombia lived the Muisca people. Their culture was rich, and gold was sacred to them, not for its monetary value, but for its spiritual power, its connection to the sun god. When a new king, or Zipa, was to be crowned, he would undergo a remarkable ceremony. He would be stripped naked, covered in sticky tree resin, and then dusted from head to toe in fine gold powder. He became El Dorado, the Gilded One. Accompanied by his priests, this living golden statue would be taken to the center of the sacred Lake Guatavita on a raft. As the sun rose, casting a brilliant sheen on his golden body, he would offer treasures of gold and emeralds to the gods, casting them into the dark, cool waters of the lake. Then he himself would dive in, washing the gold dust from his skin, a symbolic act of renewal. The Muisca people, watching from the shore, would cheer and celebrate. It was a deeply spiritual local ceremony. But when the Spanish arrived, they heard whispers of this ritual. A man covered in gold? A lake filled with treasure? Their imaginations, already inflamed with greed, took over. The story twisted and grew with every telling. The gilded man became a golden king. The sacred lake became a city. The ritual became a daily life of opulence. Soon, El Dorado was no longer just a man. It was a lost city of gold, an entire empire of unimaginable wealth hidden somewhere in the vast, uncharted wilderness of South America. The rumor had become a legend, and the legend had become an obsession that would cost thousands of lives. The hunt for El Dorado unleashed some of the most harrowing expeditions in human history. It wasn't just a search for treasure. It was a descent into madness. Take Gonzalo Pizarro, the brother of the man who conquered the Incas. In 1541, he led a massive expedition from Quito with over 200 Spaniards, thousands of indigenous porters, and a herd of animals. They plunged into the jungle expecting to find golden streets. Instead, they found relentless rain, impenetrable vegetation, and starvation. Their clothes rotted off their bodies. They ate their dogs, their horses, and eventually they turned on each other. Reports of cannibalism among the desperate, starving men became common. The expedition was a catastrophic failure. Out of Pizarro's doomed venture came another famous and equally tragic story. Pizarro sent his second-in-command, Francisco de Orellana, down a river on a makeshift boat to find food. Orellana and his men found the river, but they never came back. Swept away by the current, they became the first Europeans to travel the entire length of the Amazon River. They battled starvation, disease, and hostile tribes for months, eventually reaching the Atlantic Ocean, but they never found El Dorado. Generations passed, but the fever didn't break. Decades later, the famous English courtier and explorer Sir Walter Raleigh became obsessed. He was convinced El Dorado was in the highlands of Guyana. He led 2 expeditions himself, sacrificing his fortune and his relationship with the Queen. His first journey found nothing. His second in 1617 was even more disastrous. While Raleigh was sick, his men defied his orders and attacked a Spanish outpost, leading to the death of Raleigh's own son. He returned to England empty-handed, a broken man. For his failure and for angering the Spanish, he was executed. El Dorado hadn't made him rich. It had destroyed him. These men, Pizarro, Orellana, Raleigh, were some of the most capable and ambitious of their age. But El Dorado was not a treasure to be won. It was a mirage that lured men to their doom, a destroyer that consumed armies, fortunes, and souls in the depths of the unforgiving jungle. So why, after centuries of searching, has no one ever found a single golden cobblestone of this mythical city? Why did thousands of men die chasing a ghost? The most obvious answer is also the most likely one. El Dorado, the city of gold, never existed. It was a complete fabrication, born from a colossal misunderstanding. The Spanish, blinded by their insatiable lust for gold, heard the Muisca stories of the gilded man and interpreted them through their own materialistic lens. They couldn't comprehend that gold could be sacred and symbolic rather than just currency. To them, a man covered in gold must rule a city made of gold. Another theory is that the legend was symbolic. Perhaps El Dorado wasn't a physical place, but a concept, a state of spiritual enlightenment, or a metaphor for the wealth of the natural world itself, the true treasure of the Americas that the Europeans were too busy destroying to appreciate. There's also the intriguing possibility that indigenous groups deliberately perpetuated the myth as a form of resistance. Realizing the Europeans' single-minded obsession, perhaps they fed them false information, pointing them on wild goose chases deeper and deeper into hostile territory. Oh, El Dorado? Yes, it's just over those mountains, they might have said, sending another doomed expedition far away from their own lands. It would have been a brilliant, subtle act of warfare, using the invaders' own greed as a weapon against them. Ultimately, the search for El Dorado was a search for something that was lost in translation. The Europeans were looking for a physical city, while the story was rooted in a spiritual ritual. They were chasing a geographical location, but El Dorado was, at its heart, a cultural idea. The legend of El Dorado is often told as a thrilling adventure story, a tale of bold explorers searching for lost treasure. But to see it that way is to miss the true devastating cost of this myth. The real story isn't about gold. It's about the catastrophic consequences of greed. The obsession with El Dorado was a primary driver of Spanish colonization in South America. In its name, countless indigenous communities were destroyed, their people enslaved, tortured, or killed, their cultures erased. The Muisca people, the very originators of the Gilded Man ritual, were brutally conquered and their society dismantled. Their sacred Lake Guatavita was repeatedly and disastrously dredged by treasure hunters, destroying a holy site for a treasure that was largely symbolic. The environmental devastation was also immense. Expeditions cut swaths through pristine ecosystems, introducing diseases and disrupting delicate ecological balances that had existed for millennia. The search for a fictional city fueled the very real destruction of a continent. El Dorado was never a place. It was a reflection. It was a mirror held up to human nature, showing the terrifying depths of greed, obsession, and the willingness to destroy anything and anyone in the pursuit of wealth. The true treasure was the world the conquistadors found, rich in culture and life. And in their hunt for a golden illusion, they burned it all to the ground. The legend of El Dorado is not a treasure map. It's a cautionary tale, one we should never forget.